Good morning. Let's check the attendance. Eliza.
Present, ma'am.
Hi, Eliza. Kamusta? Buti nakasama ka na sa ating session.
Umuwi po. Umuwi
Ano?
po muna ako sa amin, kaya po nagka-internet po. Nakadita lang po ako.
Sige. Na-access mo ba yung mga recording natin?
Opo, meron na po dun sa link.
Okay. Thank you. Ana Angela. Ana Angela.
Present po. Hello po.
Thank you. Chini.
Present po, ma'am.
And Josh. Josh.
Present po.
Present po, ma'am.
And Regeline.
Present po, ma'am.
Brian.
Present, ma'am.
Ella.
Present po, ma'am.
Marcus. Marcus. Marcus absent. Okay, present. Shannon.
Good morning po, ma'am. Present po.
Good morning. Catherine.
Present po, ma'am.
Alexa.
Present po.
Gerald.
Present po.
Junel.
Good morning, ma'am. Present po.
Good morning. John.
Present po.
Ma'am, nag-email ako ngayon. Present, John. Yusha.
Present po.
And then Euclid.
Present, ma'am.
Present. Euclid. Siron. Mamaya kita kasagutin. Sige. Siron. Dayan.
Ma'am, wala raw pong kuryente sa dadaan.
Ay, ganun ba? Sige. Excuse na lang natin siya. Linel.
Present po.
Ayin.
Present po.
Joseph.
Hello po, ma'am. Present po.
George Daryl. Daryl. Daryl's not here. Francis.
Present po.
Frances. Lavinia.
Present po. Present po, ma'am.
Kurt. Kurt.
Present po. Ma'am, last
Christy.
week po nawalan po kami ng wifi. Kaya po hindi po ako nakapag-tuloy ng klase po.
Nakabalik. Okay. Sige, okay. Kirsty.
Present po.
Sige, okay lang. Elena.
Present po.
James.
Present po.
Sean.
Present po.
Lexi.
Present po.
Shaira.
Present po.
Rhea,
Present po.
Francine,
Present po.
Sander,
Present po.
Aman.
Present.
Aman hanggang 9:30 lang kasi yung link eh.
Pag
Hello?
nag-email po, nag-IR po.
Oo nga. Kahit kanina?
Hindi. Opo. Tapos nag-try po ako ng ibang file. Tapos gumana naman po. Pero dinilit ko po kasi hindi po yun yung file na assign.
Hmm, sige. Sige. Carlo,
Present po.
Jillian,
Present po.
Laika,
Present po.
Mark,
Present po.
Gabriel.
Present po.
Okay. Si Marcus, may na daw internet. Nandito ka na ba, Marcus?
Hello po, andito na po ako pero po nawawala-wala po.
Sige. How about Daryl? Nandito ba si Daryl? Daryl? Wala din. Sige. Let's continue. Let's answer the problems in the book. Pa-connect na daw, ma'am. Di gumagana yung link. Ayan, nandiyan na si Daryl. Daryl? Hi, ma'am. Sige, okay lang. So let's continue with our lesson. Let's answer the problems in your book. Ma'am, P4-1 po, di ko po napasa. Nawalan po kasi kami internet kanina ng saglit. Tapos di ko napansin yung pasahan. Email mo ngayon. Hanggang ngayon. Email mo sa akin hanggang 10 o'clock. Okay. Okay. So P4-1. Let's answer. Anong sabi dito? Number 1. Required is supply the correct answer, and the question is, how much is MIG's profit for 2012? So when you say profit, it is the net income or net loss. And when you say net income or net loss or profit, it is the revenues less expenses. Revenues plus gains plus expenses, minus expenses less losses is equal to profit or net income or net loss. But remember, class, yung mga kinocompute natin dito na profit, net income, net loss, wala pang tax yan. Kasi basic pa lang naman tayo. So baka kasi isipin nyo sa susunod, akala ko yun na yung profit. Iba pa to. Ito yung mga profit before net income. Net income before, mali pala, net income before income tax. Yun. Or profit before income tax. Kasi in the future, pagka nasa corporation na tayo, makakapag-compute na tayo ng income tax. Siyempre, pag sole proprietorship, iba rin naman yung tax ng sole proprietor. Because when you say sole proprietor, the tax will be the same as an individual person. Pero pag corporation kasi, the tax would be fixed. And here, since we are still in the basic accounting, when we say profit, that is equivalent to net income before income tax. So what happened here? Mig's proprietor operated a laundry business. During 2012, he had received cash from customers for 30,000 pesos and rendered services on credit for 50,000 pesos. So first line, ano ang assumption natin din? Meron daw siyang cash from customers for 30,000 pesos. And pag nakatanggap siya ng pera from customers, pag silent yung problem, edi i-assume natin na meron siyang income. So, meron siyang cash revenue. So, we take that note. Meron siyang revenue na 30,000 pesos. And next, what does he have? Migs Migs has a rendered service amounting to 50,000 pesos. So, that is revenue. Because accrual basis of accounting is we recognize the income when it is earned, not when it is received. I mean, not when the cash is received. So, 50,000 pesos is also revenue. Okay. How about the expenses? He incurred expenses of 22,000 pesos, of which 15,000 were still unpaid. And withdrew 15,000 for cash. 15,000 cash for personal use. O, ito muna tayo sa withdrawal of 15,000 cash for personal use. Expense ba ito o hindi? Income ba ito o hindi? This is not income nor expense. This is a capital transaction. This is a withdrawal. So, this is not relevant in our computation of profit. Okay? Wag na yung raw cash. Wala nang, hindi yan makaka-epekto sa atin. May nag-chat. Saglit. Nasend ko na po email. Okay. So, ayan. Now, again, dun sa second sentence, yung 15,000 withdrawal of cash for personal use, that is not an income-related transaction. That is a capital transaction. How about the first part of the sentence? He incurred expenses of 22,000 pesos, of which 15,000 were still unpaid. How much is the expense here? The expense here is 22,000 pesos. Why? Because, again, accrual basis of accounting, we record expenses when they are incurred, not when they are paid. So, regardless whether only 7,000 of the 22,000 expense was paid, we record the entire 22,000 as an expense. The 15,000 is an accrued expense because it is still to be paid. But regardless, again, as what I have said, the entire 22,000 should be recognized as an expense. So let us compute now. Revenue, cash sales amounting to 30,000 pesos. And then sales on account, because payment for which will still be received in the future, 50,000 pesos. Pag ang tanong, how much is the gross income? Or how much is the revenue? O ito, 80,000 pesos. But the question is, how much is the profit? Diba? So we deduct expenses. And the expenses, is what I have said is, expenses should be recorded at the entirety of 22,000 pesos, not 15,000 pesos. Because we recognize expenses when they are incurred. And so 30,000 plus 50,000 less 22,000 is 58,000 pesos. Did we get the same answer as what you have answered in your problems or in your assignment? Pareho ba? Pag hindi pareho, sabihin nyo ha. Or kung hindi man pareho, do you agree that this is the correct answer? Okay, so since there are no reactions, then let's proceed to P4-2. Ano ba ito? Again, supply the correct answer. National Photography had the following data for December 24. Ma'am, paano po pag cash basis yung ginawa? E di mali. Di ba? Accrual basis of accounting tayo lagi. accrual tayo. We recognize income when it is earned, not when the cash for it was received. We recognize the expenses when they are incurred, not when they are paid. Pero okay lang yung namang magkamali. Marami pa naman. That is just one problem out of 19. And that is just your assignment. So don't worry. It's okay. The more mistakes that you get, the higher is the learning curve. Diba? Mas matatandaan mo kasi pag nagkamali ka. So, okay lang yun. Okay? Sige. Next. Basta sagot lang kayo ng sagot, no? Huwag kayong natatakot magkamali. Kasi pag nagkamali kayo, dun yung matatandaan na hindi nyo na yun gagawin ulit. Okay? Next. Supply the correct answer. Nason Photography had the following data for December 2012. So, we have this data. What is the question? Again, I have told you last time, pag nagsasagot kayo ng problem, diretso kayo sa tanong. How much is the gross income? How much is the profit? Ibig sabihin, ito lang pala yung kailangan para mabilis kayo mag-compute. Kasi sa AMV, ang kalaban mo oras. Kaya nyo namang sagutin lahat eh. Kaya lang, yung oras kasi maiksi. So, dapat mabilis kayo sumagot. How much is the gross income? O, tanong lang pala gross income and profit. Ibig sabihin, net income income statement ang hinahanap dito. Or anything related to the income. Okay. So, first, income from walk-in customers. O, related ba to sa tanong? Yes. So, check. Income from walk-in customers, anong entry dito? Debit. Walang sinabi na meron tayong natanggap na cash, diba? So, debit either cash or accounts receivable, credit, service income. So, may income. Lista natin. Gross income. Income from walk-in customers. 25,000 pesos. And then received cash for 20,000 pesos for video coverage for 2 months, which will start in January 2013. So, ito ba? Income ba natin ito? Income nga ba ito? Hindi, di ba? Ano ba sabi? Ano nga alam? Income ba to? Hindi. Because we received cash 20,000 for 2 months, which is start in January 2013. And we are determining the values of gross income and profit for December 2012. Which means that this is a cash received in advance. This is what we call unearned revenue. Bakit sinabing unearned revenue? Kasi hindi mo pa na-earn yung revenue pero nakatanggap ka na ng payment para doon sa i-render mong service. And the unearned revenue is not a revenue. It is what? A liability. So, hindi ito income. Unang-una kasi accrual basis of accounting, we recognize income when it is earned, not when the cash for it was received or the cash payment for the income is received. O, nakatanggap ka nga ng cash, na-render mo na ba yung service? Hindi pa, di ba? So, hindi pa siya income based on accrual basis of accounting. And number 2, based on the nature of the entries. Di ba? Anong entry mo dito pag nakatanggap ka ng cash for income in the future? For services to be rendered in the future. Debit cash, 20,000 pesos. Credit, unearned revenue. And that unearned revenue on the credit side is not a revenue. What is that? That is a liability. Why? Why is it a liability? Because you have the obligation to render the service in the future. Diba? Pag liability, it is a present obligation arising from past transactions that will have an effect of outflow of economic benefits from the company. So, ano yung magiging ano yung outflow ng economic benefits sa company? Eh di mag-render ng service. So, wala tayong income dito. Next, paid 5 months worth of rent of building starting December 1, 2012. 5 months worth of rent of building. Tagalin na lang natin ito. Income from walk-in customers. The next, rent of building. Pero, di ba, expense ito? Kasi nagbayad daw siya nung December. O, sakto. Pwede to. Expense ito. Kaya lang, anong sabi niya? For 5 months. Kailan, anong month na tayo? December pa lang. So, ibig sabihin yung 50,000 pesos na ito, lahat ba to expense? No. Because again, accrual basis of accounting, we recognize expenses when they are incurred and not when the payment for which made. Diba? Hindi upon payment of cash. So, magkano lang dapat ang expense natin dito? The expense is only 1 month out of 5 months. Only for the period or for the month of December. Yung 4 out of 5 months, anong tawag mo doon? Anong tawag mo doon sa 4 out of 5 months? That is a prepaid expense. Prepaid rent. And when you say prepaid expense, that is an asset. So, nakita nyo na yung trend. Kanina, pag nakatanggap tayo ng cash in advance for services to be rendered or goods to be delivered, what do you call that? That is unearned income. Bakit unearned income? Nakatanggap ka ng cash para sa i-render mo pa lang na service at i-deliver mo. Meron kang liability. May obligation ka to render the service in the future. Hindi mo pa earned yung income. Okay? Unearned income kasi, ulit, hindi mo pa na-earn yung income. Bakit? Dahil i-render mo pa lang yung service in the future or i-deliver mo pa lang yung goods. O paano naman pag tayo yung nagbayad in advance? Anong tawag mo doon? Ganito, paid 5 months in advance for rent. This is a prepaid expense. Ano ibig sabihin ng prepaid expense? You pay the expense in advance and that is considered as asset. Why is it considered as asset? Because there would be a future flow of benefit, economic benefit, because we will use or we will still consume that payment for future months. So again, ilan lang expense dito? 1 month lang. The 4 months would be prepaid expense. So 1 month lang natin dito. 1 over 5 times 50,000 pesos. 1/5. Kasi 1 month lang automatic. So 1 over 5 times 50,000 pesos. Okay. Or, kung gusto nyo, ibang way ng pag-compute, 50,000 pesos divided by 5 times 1. Diba ganun yung pag-compute ng iba? Pero ako kasi, fraction ang ginagawa ko. 1 out of 5 kasi for 5 months, 1 lang ang expense. Pero depende sa inyo yan kung anong gusto nyo pag-compute, kung saan kayo mas comfortable. Okay. Next. Build USD for photo coverage. Services done last month. Done last month. Build USD. So, is this our income? Yes, this is our income. So, hindi naman niya sinabi na ni-record na natin daw yung income last month. So, ngayon natin i-record. Diba? Pero dapat, technically, this is the income for the previous month. Pero, let's assume ang kinocompute natin dito ay for the year end. Okay? For the year end income. Kaya, kasama pa rin ito. Build USD for photo coverage services done last month. So, the 15,000 is our income because the services have already been rendered. So, 15,000. Service rendered last month. Pero pag sinabi lang, how much is the gross income for December only? O di, hindi mo ito isasama kasi income mo dapat yan last month. Pero, let's assume year-end dito. Next, paid for utilities, 5,000 pesos. Rent of building, it should be an expense. So, dapat, ilipat na lang natin siya sa baba. And utilities expense. This is how much? 5,000 pesos. How much is the profit? Profit is 95 plus 15 plus less 10,000 less 5,000 is 5,000 pesos. Pero kung ang tanong lang ay gross income, hindi dagdagan natin dito. Gross income is, pag sabi mong gross, hindi pa nababawasan si revenue ng expense. So, lagyan natin na gross income. Magkano gross income? 95 plus 15, that is 110,000 pesos. Ayan. May question ba? So, tignan natin ulit. Ito. Income from walk-in customers, this is income, correct. Ito naman, receive cash 20,000 pesos for video coverage for 2 months, hindi to income. Ano ito? Asset to. I mean, this is liability, unearned income. Next, is this an expense? Yes, but only to the extent of 1 month. 1 out of 5 months is the expense. So, 10,000 out of 50,000. And next, this is an income. This is an accrued income, although the payment for which has not yet been received. And then lastly, this is an expense because utilities are expenses. Question. Ano kaya yung journal entry dito? Gawin natin yung journal entry. Number 1. Debit. O kaya na lang maglista, no? Hindi ko na isusulat. Debit. Let's say cash or accounts receivable, credit, service, revenue. Ito naman sa number 2. Receive cash for video coverage. Debit cash, 20,000 pesos. Credit, unearned income. And that unearned income is again a liability. Number 3, paid 5 months worth of rent of building starting December 1, 2012. O, ano yan? Debit, rent expense. O, sige, sulat natin kasi medyo mahirap. Sulat ko na nga lahat para sa inyo. Debit cash or accounts receivable, credit, service, income. $95,000 pesos. Okay. Next. Cash, 20,000 pesos. Credit, unearned income. Next, paid 5 months worth of rent of building starting December 1, 2012. O sige, edi unahin natin yung credit. Mas madali yung credit. Credit cash, 50,000 pesos. Diba? Pero anong debit mo? Debit ka na expense. Na rent expense. 1/5 times 50,000 pesos. This is times 1/5. 10,000 pesos. And how about the others? That is your prepaid expense. 4 out of 5 months times 50,000 pesos. Times 4 out of 5. Yan. Pag nag-calculate kayo, pwede yung 50,000 divided by 5 times 4. Pero pwede din 50,000 times 4 over or divided by 5. 40,000 pesos. How about the next one? Billed USD for photo coverage done last month. Paano yung entry niyan? Debit. Pag sinabi mong billed, ikaw nag-build. Accounts receivable. This is 15,000. Pero income mo na ba to? Yes. Service income. Amounting to 15,000 pesos. Approval basis of accounting. Next. Paid for utilities, 5,000 pesos. So, ano to? Utilities expense. Diba? Expense natin yan, 5,000 pesos. And anong credit? Credit, nagbayad ka to. So, credit, cash. Nabawasan yung cash mo. 5,000 pesos. Ayan. So, ito yung entries. Question? Do you have questions? May question ba kayo? Sa grading po namin ng assignment, hindi yun mahigpit, di ba po? Basta makita lang yung effort, pati kailan po namin makikita yung grades sa assignments at yung updated grade po sa quiz with additional points. Well, para sa akin, syempre dapat naman full effort. Di ba? Full effort. Pero kung hindi niya naman talaga nasagot lahat kasi mahirap, gano'n, may mga hindi siya kasing perfect ng score ng iba na talagang nakuha yung perfect na sagot. Pero hindi ka naman babagsak. Para sa akin gusto ko kayo i-motivate, hindi ko kayo gustong maging tamad. Baka naman mamaya dahil nasa mindset na ninyo na basta kung magpasa ka ng assignment, may grade ka. Ayoko naman isipin nyo na for formality lang ito. This is for you. So, tama naman yun. Hindi naman mahigpit sa grade as long as nakapag-perform ka. Pero dapat full effort because this is for you. Now, kailan daw makikita yung grades? Hindi pa nagre-reply si Sir Albert sa quiz. So, wala pa rin akong visibility sa quiz results ninyo. For the assignments, makikita nyo yun before yung prelims. So, pagtapos ng quiz 2, lalabas na yung grade nyo for assignment. Ayun. Yun lang. Lexi, may tanong ka ba?
Yung sa ano po, ma'am, yung sa P4-2, yung build UST for photo coverage services done last month. Hindi po ba for November yung entry doon?
Oo, yun nga. Yes, actually, for November yung entry. Di ba sabi ko sa iyo kanina, sabi ko sa inyo, we are assuming that the question is for the year, not for the month. Pero kung clear dun sa question, na ang tinatanong lang ay for December, hindi natin to i-entry kasi dapat na-entry mo na yan noong November. Pero ito, ina-assume natin na for the whole month, from January to December, yung recognition ng income and expenses and ng net income. Pero technically, dapat talaga for November siya.
Mm.
So just assume that the question is, what is the profit for the year and what is the what is the gross income for the year and what is the profit for the year? Kasi hindi naman siya clear. Pero pag sinabi lang, how much is the profit for December? Yun. Hindi mo na isasama. Kasi for November.
Na-assume po kasi namin na na for the month of December lang po yung income. Paano po?
Okay lang.
Okay lang po yun.
Oo. Gawa tayo ng another computation. So, 0 na to. Kasi, accrual basis of accounting, hindi siya income ng December, income siya ng November. For December only. For the Ayan. May question pa ba? Okay na ba, Lexi?
Opo, ma'am.
Okay. Sige. Ayan, pag may mga questions kayo, raise nyo lang ha, para ma-clear yung questions. Okay, can we proceed to the next part? Next problem. 4-3. So, ganun ulit sa 4-3, gagawin natin yung requirement, then gagawin natin yung entry para natitrain kayo. Although alam mo naman to. So, again, P4-1 agency, P4-I agency had the following transactions during the month of November 2012. How much is the net increase in accounts receivable? How much is the net increase in owner's equity during the month? How much is the cash balance at the end of the month? Okay. Sige. Ang gawin natin dito is accounting equation. Assets is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. Kung ano man ang solution na naisip nyo, okay lang. Kasi net increase lang naman ang tinatanong eh. Net increase in AR, net increase in owner's equity. So, sa cash balance at the end of the month. So, plot ko lang. Owner's equity. Okay, first transaction. Paid creditors on account for 45,000 pesos. Anong effect nito sa accounting equation natin? Pag nagbayad ka ng creditors on account, ibig sabihin, meron kang pinagkakautangan dati. Nagbayad ka ngayon. So, what is the entry? The entry is supposed to be debit. Dito na lang tama entry. Debit accounts payable. Kasi, babawasan mo yung utang mo. And credit, of course, cash. Magbabayad ka eh. How much? Ano sabi? 45,000 pesos. Okay, so ayan yung entry. Again, debit account payable, credit cash. Debit accounts payable because we have to decrease the liability because we're going to pay. Saan siya banda? Sa liabilities accounts. Payable. Okay, we have cash. So, this is a decrease in cash amounting to 45,000 pesos. And parang mas maganda. Lipat natin. Let lang. Sige, ulit. Ma'am, hindi po ba credit po is loans payable, hindi po cash? Because, sabi po, paid creditor on account. Paid creditor on account. Hindi, nangutang ka po ulit para mabayaran yung dati mong utang. Hindi. Hindi. Inano lang yan. In-explain niya lang kung sino yung creditors mo dati. Paid creditors on account. Hindi siya loan transaction. It must be clear na nangutang siya ulit. Gusto niya lang sabihin na yung creditors mo on account. Diba? Creditors on account. Ganon. Hindi siya equivalent to another loan transaction. It must be clear that there is another loan transaction. Yung sinabing on account, that is only the modifier of the word creditors. So, paid creditors on account amounting to 45,000 pesos. Ayun. Unless it is clear that there is another loan transaction, it must be written. Sabi, dapat sinabi na obtained a loan in order to pay creditor. So, pag nabasa ko yung na creditors on account, ang ibig sabihin lang nun, yun yung mga taong pinagkautangan ninyo. Hindi siya, ibig sabihin na nangutang ko ulit para mabayad dun sa utang mo. Dati. Clear ba yun? There is a play of words kasi dito eh. But it is just a simple. Wag kayo masyado mag-overanalyze. Ano lang, yung simple interpretation lang. So, gano'n na, careful kayo guys ha. Kasi, alam mo, maraming matatalino na nasa board exam. Pag sa board exam, magugulat ka na either hindi nagtatap or they don't make it kasi may tendency mag-overanalyze. Yun. Eh, hindi naman ibig sabihin, hindi sila matatalino. Ito, siya na, this is general advice to everybody. Kailangan, simplehan mo lang or hindi gaanong malalim yung pagbabasa mo ng problem. Yun. Pwede naman yun. Pwede naman yung ganong analysis mo. Kaya lang, since it is not clearly said or it is clearly expressed in the problem that they obtained, this person obtained another loan in order to pay, we should not assume. Okay, ganun lang. Ano lang to, yung on account, this is just a modifier of the word creditors. So, careful kayo dun klasa, lalo pag mga higher accounting nyo na, minsan kasi pag nag-over na analyze tayo, mas mapapahamak tayo. Okay, pero this is not about you, Shannon. This is for everybody. Ganun. May mga friends kasi akong ganun eh, na sobrang talino na. Sobrang lalim talaga ng pag-iisip nila ngayon, mas hindi mo makukuha yung sagot. Kaya ito, para lang sa inyo sa susunod. For your betterment. Okay? Okay, may question pa ba? May comment pa ba kayo? Sabihin nyo lang ah. Okay, mahiya. Tayo-tayo lang naman dito. Okay? So again, no? Paid creditors on account, 45,000 pesos. So what is the entry? Debit accounts payable, credit cash, 45,000 pesos. And the effect in the accounting equation would be, ayan. So meron ka dito, sa asset side, decrease in assets, cash, and decrease in liability, the same amount. So equal pa rin, di ba? Decrease is equal to the decrease. Next. Pwede din mag-P account kayo. Eh, gusto ko lang mag-accounting equation para mas makita yung summary. Next, billed customers for services rendered on account. So, nag-bill tayo ng receivables natin sa mga customers natin for services that have already been rendered. So, since hindi pa naman sinabi na-record na natin yung income, edi record natin siya ngayon. So, debit, accounts receivable. Basta pag silent class, pag hindi sinabi na na-record mo na yung income dati, pag may sinabi sa problem na billed, ang kapartner lagi ni accounts receivable ay service revenue. This is 50,000 pesos. Asset side, accounts receivable. Shortcut ko na lang. Is 50,000 pesos and service revenue. Nawala. expense. So we have income, 50,000 pesos. Okay. Entry is, again, pag nag-bill tayo, debit, accounts receivable, credit, service revenue. And what is the effect? Increase in assets and increase in owners' equity. Kasi nasa income siya. Next, withdraw 100,000, withdraw 10,000 pesos for personal use. So, nag-withdraw daw tayo. What is the entry? November 8, November 9, debit. Sino ba to? Drawings. Huwag na natin pangalanan. 10,000 pesos. Credit, cash. Nabawasan yung cash ni company. Kasi, nag-withdraw. So, cash. Ibig sabihin, ano effect sa cash? Deduction. Diba? Decrease in cash and decrease in assets. And, ano pa effect? Decrease in owner's equity because there is an increase in drawings. Drawings will always decrease the owner's equity. Okay. Next, November 12. What is the entry? Receive cash from customer on account. Okay. So, naka-receive na tayo ng cash from customers. Cash, credit. Customers on account, ibig sabihin, meron tayong accounts receivable before. Kasi, we rendered services on account to be collected in the future. Ngayon, natanggap na daw natin yung payment for it. How much? 20,000 pesos. Hindi ka na magre-recognize dito ng income, collection ng pinag-uusapan dito. So, debit, cash, increase in cash. And, credit accounts receivable, so, decrease in receivable. Kaya, equal pa rin ang equation. Ano ba yung net effect? No effect in the assets. Net increase was offset by the net decrease. The increase was net offset by the decrease. Kaya, net effect is 0. Next. November 14, the owner invested additional cash of 100,000 pesos. November 14. Debit, cash, nag-invest daw eh. Credit, capital. Kung may pangalan, lagyan ng pangalan. Eh, dito hindi naman sinabi, III agency lang. Eh, pwede na yan, capital. 100,000 pesos. 100,000 pesos. So, what will happen? Increase in cash or increase in asset. And increase in equity because we have additional investment. Next. The owner paid rent for the month of November, which is 8,000 pesos. Rent. Then, paid rent for the month, 8,000 pesos. November 25. Pag nagbayad ka ng rent, ano ba yun? In assets, liabilities, capital, income, expense. Rent. Rent, expense. Or kung di ka pa sure sa debit mo, di unahin mo yung credit mo, nagbayad ka daw eh, cash. How much? 8,000 pesos. What will happen? We have decrease in cash and we have decrease in owner's equity. we have expense. So decrease in asset and decrease in owner's equity. And then the last transaction is received cash from walk-in customers. So meron daw tayong customers na nagbayad ng cash kasi walk-in sila at nagbayad sila agad. Debit cash because received payment. How much is it again? 20,000 pesos. Credit, service, revenue. Service. 20,000. Then cash, 20,000. Okay. Problem. How much is the net increase in accounts receivable? Pwede din naman mag-T account. Mas madali din yung T account. Diba? Ito kasi gusto ko lang makita yung kabuuan. So what is the net increase? We have increase of 50,000 pesos, but we also have a decrease of 20,000 pesos. So we have net increase of what? 30,000 pesos for accounts receivable. Okay. And then next question. What's the next question? Yan, para makita. Tanong. How much is the net increase in owner's equity during the month? So, owner's equity, net increase, edi, naalala niyo yung equation natin? Capital beginning, 0, para lang formal yung computation, plus investment, additional investment, and income, less expenses, and drawings. So we have capital N. Yan. pwede gamitin mo tong formula na to, or dito ka na lang, di ba? Pwede na siya eh. So addition, what is the net increase or decrease in owner's equity? Additional investment, less yung drawings mo, plus yung additional investment, less drawings, plus income, less expense, parang nag-52,000 pesos. Yan ang sagot, di ba? Pwede din naman ganito din gawin mo. Computin mo gamit yung formula natin. Okay. Capital beginning plus additional investment na magkano? 100,000 plus income na 72,000. 70,000 pala. Less expenses na 8,000. Less drawings 10,000. So magkano lahat? 152,000 pesos, diba? Yung ending mo. Dahil zero ang capital beginning mo, the net increase or decrease is 152,000. Because capital end less capital beginning is the net increase or decrease in equity. Or, kung tignan mo lang lagi yung nasa gitna. Pag ang question sa inyo sa susunod, kunwari given itong equation na to, so ang question lang is, how much is the net increase or decrease in equity? Yung nasa gitna lang yung kukumputin nyo. Yung additional investment, and any income, less expenses, and less drawings. Pero kung ang given lang ay capital beginning or capital end, edi capital end, capital beginning, net increase or decrease. Capital, ligantin yung natin. Less capital beginning. Sabihin nyo sa akin, ba't ang dami namang paraan para mag-compute? Kasi, sa quiz nyo, hindi mo alam kung anong given. So, dapat, kabisado mo lahat ng paraan kung paano kunin mo isang bagay. Capital end less capital beginning, 0. How much is the net increase or decrease? 152,000 pa rin. So, you can either go through the transactions, you get additional investment, drawings, income, and expense, and you sum it, or use the equation capital beginning plus investment plus income less expenses plus drawings, and get the capital end. And from that, from capital end less capital beginning, you will get your net increase or net decrease. So the answer for the question is 152,000 pesos. Or kung given na itong equation na to, ay nasa na, nawala. Lagi kong sinasabi sa inyo, ay sinabi ko pala kanina, yung nasa gitna lang, yan yung net increase or decrease. Okay? Para lang shortcut, mabilisan. Then, next question. How much is the cash balance at the end of the month? O di, ayun na. Ilang cash balance at the end of the month? 77,000 pesos. Yan. Ano pa? What else? Eh, paano pag i-account naman? Di, try lang natin gumawa isa lang. I-account ni cash. Right order. So we have here cash. May beginning balance ba tayo? Wala namang sinabi, di ba? So assume natin 0. Then let's plot the transactions. November, palitin na lang natin para kita nyo lahat. November 1. Increase or decrease in cash? Decrease in cash. November 8. Meron ba? Wala. November 9. November 9, decrease in cash. Drawings din. Then, November 12. Increase in cash. 20,000 pesos. Then, November 14. Additional investment. 100,000 pesos. Then, November 25. Payment of rent. November 25, payment of rent. Decrease in cash. Credit daw sa cash. And then, November 28, debit cash. So, right side of the T account. So, magkano ngayon ang debit side? Let's get the debit side. ₱140,000 ang debit side. Ano naman ang credit side? ₱63,000. So, magkano ang net balance ni cash? Tanggalin natin ang signs na to. Pag nasa T account, hindi naman kailangan naka-negative. Kasi pag nasa credit side, tas ang normal balance ay debit, edi automatic deduction yan. Kaya ang net balance ay ending balance. 77,000. Same dun sa nakuha natin kanina. And then you can do that for the rest of the accounts, T account. Okay ba yun? May question? Kasi ipopost ko naman itong solutions na to eh. Kaya na lang bahala mag-adjust ng mga cells kung hindi nyo makita. Okay, next. Can we move to the next problem? You have questions? Diyan pa ba kayo? 4-4. Supply the correct answer. What is the question again? How much is the new asset? How much is the new liabilities? What is the capital balance for 1 month after? What is the net income for the month? Okay. So these are the questions. Basically, we have to prepare trial balance or financial statements. So, ano daw sabi? On January 1, 2012, Erwin Computer Repair Shop have the following has the following assets and liabilities. Cash, 150,000. AR, 30,000. Repair supplies, 10,000. Computer equipment, 80,000. Accounts payable, 75,000. After 1 month of operation, the shop received cash of 19,000 pesos for services rendered and a promissory note as payment for services rendered of 25,000 pesos. Paid 8,000 pesos rent, utilities of 3,000 pesos, and 8,000 pesos of its accounts payable, and unused supplies amounting to 8,000 pesos. Another question. Yon, assets, liabilities, capital, and net income. Okay, edi ang gawin na lang natin dito is, we will just, wag na muna tayo mag-journal entries. Or pwede din naman mag-journal entry tayo. Sige, mag-journal entry na lang tayo. And then we will post the journal entry to the account. And then, after posting in the account, we'll prepare a new trial balance and we'll prepare financial statement. Okay. P4-1. Yung balances. Mamaya na natin sila papansinin. Mag-journal entry muna tayo. Ano sabi? After 1 month of operation, the shop received cash of 19,000 pesos for services rendered and the promissory note as payment for services rendered of 25,000 pesos. So first, received cash, debit, cash. Cash, debit cash, Canada, 19,000 pesos. Credit, service, revenue, because the cash was received in payment for the services rendered. 19,000 pesos. Next, nakatanggap na tayo notes payable. Notes receivable. Promissory note as payment for services rendered of 25,000 pesos. So, hindi accounts receivable, meron tayong notes, which is evidence of collectibility. So, debit, notes, receivable. Credit, service, revenue. Notes receivable, 25,000 pesos. Service revenue, 25,000 pesos. Nilagyan natin ng description. To record notes received for services rendered. Next, paid 8,000 pesos rent. So, nagbayad ka ng rent, meron kang expense or rent expense. And then, credit, cash. Debit, rent expense, credit, cash, 8,000 pesos. To record payment of rent. Next, utilities of 3,000 pesos. Payment, and then also payment of accounts payable, 8,000 pesos. So, utilities, parang ganito din. Utilities expense, ₱3,000, debit, credit, cash, 3,000 pesos. To record payment of utilities. Okay. And then, how about payment of accounts payable? Hindi, nagbayad ka ng accounts payable, babawasan mo yung accounts payable mo. And the normal balance of accounts payable is credit. So, if we want to decrease our accounts payable because we have paid a portion of it, we will debit accounts payable. And then credit, of course, we paid in the form of cash, so credit cash. This is 8,000 pesos, din ba? 8,000 din. Credit cash, 8,000 pesos. Then, to record payment of accounts payable. Yan. Meron pa ba? Unused supplies amount to 8,000 pesos. Unused supplies amount to 8,000 pesos. Yung entry dito ay, ang discussion ng entry dito, pang, ano na to, pang accrual sa chapter 5, adjusting entries. So, kasi sana, kung yung entry natin to recognize the unused supplies of 8,000 pesos will depend on the initial entry. So, kung ang initial entry natin to record the purchase of supplies is asset method, which means that we initially recorded the purchase of supplies as an asset. So, debit supplies, credit cash, ang magiging entry natin to record unused supplies would be debit supplies expense, credit unused supply, credit supplies. So, medyo komplikado siya. Sabihin na lang natin na, sige, let us assume that initial balance of supplies is 10,000 pesos. Pero wala pa sa book, So, kasi pagka sinagot yung book, hindi nyo naman kailangan i-record yung entry for the supplies. Hindi naman kasi tinatanong din yung journal entry. Kailangan lang natin yung ending balance. Pero sige, to guide you, ano yung magiging entry sa supplies, unused supplies? Depende yun. Depende sa initial entry natin. Okay, so let us assume that the initial balance of supplies is 10,000 pesos or initial purchase supplies is 10,000 pesos. Sabihin natin na initial entry. Kunwari, nung binili natin yung binili natin yung supplies, debit supplies, this is asset method. Ibig sabihin, pag sabi mo asset method, i-recognize natin initially as asset. Supplies, debit supplies, credit, cash. Natin 10,000 pesos. 10,000 pesos. Or, pwede ding expense method. Advance na tong lecture na to. Chapter 5 ito. Pag sinabi mo expense method, ibig sabihin, initially, ni-record mo yung pag-purchase mo ng supplies as expense. So, debit, supplies, expense. Kanina, asset. So, ito, yung supplies na yan, nakarecognize siya as asset. Dito naman sa expense method, initially recorded the purchase of supplies as expense. Pwede din accounts payable, cash or accounts payable. BP. ngayon pag alam mo na kung magkano yung natira. So for the supplies, let's assume that the initial purchase of supplies is 10,000 pesos. Diba? And the initial entry is, using asset method, we recognize the supplies as an asset, debit supplies, credit cash. Pag naman expense method, we initially recorded the supplies as expense. Ibig sabihin, in-expense mo muna siya lahat kasi ina-expect mo na magagamit mo lahat. So, expense mo na. Ito namang una sa asset, ibig sabihin, tama naman dahil ang supplies, di ba, asset talaga yan? So, initially, ni-record niya as supplies. Ano yung magiging adjusting entry mo? Ito yung magiging entry natin at the end. It will depend on the method. Okay, no? Asset method. Pag asset method, di ba ang natira, magkano lang daw natira? Ang natira na lang daw ay 8,000 pesos. Unused supplies. So, kung unused supplies ay 8,000 pesos, ilan yung nagamit? Ilan yung nagamit? Asset method pa lang tayo, ha? Huwag mo lang pansinin itong si expense. Kung initially, supplies ay 10,000 pesos, asset method. Ano dapat yung maging entry natin para ang maging ending balance si supplies ay 8,000 pesos? Ilan yung dapat na ibawas natin doon sa supplies? Or ilan yung unang nagamit? Ulit. Asset method. Ulit. Kung ang initial natin na supplies ay 10,000 pesos at ang natira daw ay 8,000 pesos, isipin natin kung ilan ba yung nagamit. Ilan ba yung nagamit? 2,000 pesos. So, para maging para yung ending balance ng supplies natin ay 8,000 pesos, ilan yung dapat natin i-credit sa supplies? 2,000 pesos, di ba? Credit supplies, 2,000 pesos. Di man natin dapat ito discuss pa eh. But I ng T-account. Para mas mag-visualize niyo. Supplies. So again, pag asset method ang ginamit, ganito yung itsura ng account natin for supplies. Initially, we recorded it as assets, so 10,000 pesos. But the ending balance should be 8,000 pesos. So the question is, para maging 8,000 pesos, ilan yung dapat nating i-credit sa supplies? Yan. So mag-insert tayo ng shape. Ilog. Yun. Ilan dapat yung i-credit para maging 8,000 pesos? Yan. So, workback method ka. 8,000 less 10,000. Or, just by analyzing, paano magiging 8,000 si 10,000? Eh, di mag-credit ka ng magkano? 2,000 pesos. So, alam mo na ngayon yung credit side ng entry mo. Diba? Meron ka dapat daw i-credit na 2,000 pesos. So, ito yung credit natin. Credit supplies, 2,000 pesos. Ano yung debit? Ano yung debit mo? O, isipin mo, di ba meron ka supplies nung una na 10,000, nagamit mo daw yung 2,000 pesos. So, anong tawag mo dun sa paggamit mo na yun? Asset ba yun? Liabilities? Capital, income, or expense? That is your expense. Kaya debit, supplies, expense. 2,000 pesos. 2,000 pesos. Ayan. Lipat mo lang natin siya dito sa kabila. Then, ano yung magiging account mo sa supplies expense? Hindi, nagiging ito. Supplies expense. 2,000 pesos. Debit, 2,000 pesos. 2,000 pesos. Saan mo siya? Ayan yung magiging entry. Ang entry is debit supplies expense, credit supplies, 2,000 pesos. Para makuha natin yung ending balance na 8,000 pesos. Pero kung ang ginamit naman na method ay expense method, which means that we have initially recorded the purchase of supplies as an expense, the adjusting entry will be different. Expense method. Expense method. Ayan. O, di ba, initially, sa expense method, in-recognize natin yung pagbili natin ng supplies as expense, 10,000 pesos. Ito siya. Diba? Debit, supplies, expense, credit, cash, or AP. So, meron tayong value dito sa debit side natin na 10,000 pesos. Ngayon, ang tanong, di ba, at the end of the year daw, or at the end of the month, 8,000 pesos na lang daw ang natira. So, tunay ba na yung 10,000 pesos lahat expense mo? Hindi, di ba? Kasi ang nagamit mo lang out of 10,000 is 2,000 pesos na supplies. Kasi may natirang 8,000 pesos. So, ang ending balance dapat ng supplies mo, hindi 10,000. Ang totoo mong expense ay 2,000 lang. Naintindihan? So, anong magiging adjusting entry mo? Paano mo mababawasan yung 10,000 pesos na supplies expense para maging 2,000 pesos? Dapat mag-credit ka ngayon ng magkano? Pwede ka mag-work back 2,000 less 10,000. 8,000 pesos pala dapat ang ibawas natin. Or pwede din 10,000 less 2,000 pesos. Yan. So, dapat bawasan mo yung expense. Mag-credit ka ngayon sa expense ng 8,000 pesos. Or, pwede naman, sagutin mo na ng sarili mo para makuha mo yung debit. Tanungin mo sa sarili mo pala, ilan ba yung natira? Pag expense method, ilan ba yung natirang supplies? 8,000, di ba? So, mag-debit ka na ngayon ng 8,000 pesos. Supplies, 8,000 pesos. ₱8,000 pesos. Then, credit, di ba nag-credit ka dito? Supplies expense. Supplies expense, 8,000 pesos. Yan. Okay. So, meron kang debit. Diba sabi, ang ending balance ng supplies mo ay 8,000 pesos. Ilan ang dapat mo may adjustment dito sa supplies dahil wala kang ni-record noong una? Debit ka ngayon ng 8,000 pesos. Yan. So, ito yung magiging entry. So, pag mga ganon, hindi sa'yo binigay yung kapag ka mga ganito na statements, hindi binigay kung ano yung initial entry, then we have to assume both methods. We have to compute for both methods. Pero wala namang ganun. Pag nag-quiz kayo or nag-exam kayo in the future, laging sinasabi kung paano na-record initially yung mga prepayments and accruals. So, kung medyo cloudy, okay lang yan. Iwanan na natin to kasi sa chapter 5 pa natin to i-discuss. Okay, kasi parang kulang yung discussion na lahat may entry, tas yung huli, ending balance ng supplies, hindi natin alam kung paano i-entry. So, medyo komplikado siya kasi it pertains to adjusting entry. So, again, it depends on the initial entry. If we have initially recorded the purchase of supplies as asset, debit supplies, credit cash, then your entry at the end should be to record the expense. Ilan ba talaga yung expense mo? Kasi hindi na totoo na lahat ito ay asset. Diba? May nagamit ka dyan. So, hindi lahat supplies. Hindi lahat asset. So, ilan yung naging expense mo? Ang natira na lang na 8,000. So, nagamit mo 2,000. Kaya magde-debit ka ngayon ng supplies expense. And, credit, bawasan mo din yung supplies mo. Bawasan mo yung asset mo. Na, magkano? 2,000. Kasi ang natira nga ay 8,000 pesos. Pero pag naman expense method, initially you recorded the supplies as an expense. Sabi mo, bumili ako ng supplies. Lahat yun expense, 10,000 pesos. Pero at the end of the month, totoo ba na lahat yan expense? Hindi. Kasi hindi naman lahat nagamit. Hindi naman lahat ng supplies nagamit. So question, ilan ba ang natira? Meron ka pa daw 8,000 pesos na natira. So, asset mo yun. Kaya debit, supplies, 8,000 pesos. And question is, ilan ba talaga ang tunay na expense mo? 2,000 pesos lang, di ba? Kaya ilan dapat ibawas mo sa initial na 10,000 pesos para maging 2,000 pesos na expense? Credit ka ngayon ng 8,000 pesos. So, yan yung mga entry and yan yung T account. Okay. Now, what are we going to do? Let us now post these entries sa T account. Gawa tayo ng T account per transaction. Per account. Madali sana kung board eh. Kaya lang mahirap kasi kailangan natin gumawa ng mga ganito-ganito. Board, dire-diretso lang. We can write anything. But we're using Excel, so I have to illustrate to you clearly. So, cash. Cash, what is the beginning balance? Beginning balance ng cash ay kung sabi sa book, 150,000 pesos. Ano daw nangyari? Ano yung mga transactions for cash? We have cash amounting to 19,000, so debit. Ano pa? Next? Wala. Next, nagbayad daw tayo ng rent. So credit, 8,000 pesos. Next, diba, credit daw tayo ng magkano? 8,000 pesos. Next, nagbayad daw tayo ng utilities. Credit tayo ng how much? 3,000 pesos. And then, nag-credit daw tayo ng cash kasi nagbayad tayo ng accounts payable. Credit, 8,000 pesos. So, magkano ngayon ang ending balance natin? Again, beginning balance of cash is 150,000 pesos. And then, debit cash, 19,000. Credit cash, 8,000 pesos for rent. Credit cash, 3,000 for utilities. Credit cash, 8,000 for payment of liabilities. So, magkano yung net debit? I mean, magkano yung total debit? Total debit is 169,000 and total credit is 19,000 pesos. So what will be your ending balance? Ending balance is balance and 150,000 pesos. How about for the other accounts? Accounts receivable. May movement na tayo sa accounts receivable. Gayahin lang natin ito. Accounts receivable. Beginning balance daw is 30,000 pesos. Meron ba tayong movement? Wala. Wala tayong transactions affecting this account during the month. So, hindi, ganyan lang. Ang ending balance niya pa rin ay 30,000 pesos. Next, repair supplies. Meron ba tayong repair supplies? Yun. Ito pala yung repair supplies na yun eh. Loloko naman ako ng problem na to. Meron pala tayong beginning balance ng repair supplies. So, ito pala. Asset method pala ang ginamit. So, ito lang yung gagamitin natin. Hindi na pala tayo mag-a-assume. Hindi naman sinabi sa akin. Yung beginning balance pala ang supplies. Ito na lang gagamitin. Yan. So, highlight ko na lang yung tamang entry. Okay? So, again, initial entry daw natin sa supplies ay initial balance pala natin, repair supplies, asset method. Kasi nakalagay siya dito, as asset, 10,000 pesos. And unused supplies amounted to 8,000 pesos. So, the adjusting entry should be this one. Kasi, we have to reduce the amount of supplies by 2,000 pesos in order for us to get the ending balance of 8,000 pesos. So, asset method ang gagamitin natin. Hindi expense method. Pero at least, alam nyo na ngayon kung paano yung expense method. Okay? So, again, pagka asset method ang ginamit, bawasan mo yung original na asset para mag-appear kung magkano lang yung natira. So, from 10,000 pesos, since we have an ending balance of 8,000 pesos, we should have a credit to 2,000 pesos. Credit ng 2,000 pesos. Yeah. Kaya, ito na lang yung gamitin natin na T-account dito. For supplies, beginning balance, balik natin itong envelope. Beginning balance for supplies, 0. Ayan. Again, beginning balance dati ng supplies 10,000 pesos. Pero ang ending balance daw natin ay 8,000 pesos. Kaya nag-credit tayo ng 2,000 pesos. And hindi enough na dapat may credit tayong 2,000 pesos sa supplies. Ano yung magiging debit? We have to recognize that we have expensed a portion of the supplies amounting to 2,000 pesos. Kaya may balance na ang supplies expense natin at the end ng 2,000 pesos. Next, ano pa yung mga dito? Computer equipment, 80,000 pesos. Computer equipment. Computer equipment. Ayan na lang natin to. Magkano bigyan yung balance computer equipment? 80,000 pesos. Tsaka na yung depreciation, wag muna natin pansinin. Simple lang muna tayo ngayon. Dahil walang movement sa computer equipment, ending balance is 80,000 pesos pa rin. And then, accounts payable, 75,000 pesos. Lagyan na rin natin dito, accounts payable. Mamaya na lang muna si accounts payable. Ubusin muna natin yung assets. Ano pa bang assets natin maliban sa cash, accounts receivable, computer equipment? Wala na dito sa beginning balances. Ano na? Meron ba tayo mga additional na assets? Meron. Notes receivable. So, record muna natin si notes receivable. I-post pa lang muna natin. Let's post. Post natin sa the account or general ledger. Notes receivable. Marin, 25,000 pesos. Ayan. Ending balance, 25,000 pesos. And then, supplies and the supplies expense. Now we will make one for our accounts payable. Magkano ang beginning balance ni accounts payable? Magkano daw sa book, sabi? 75,000 pesos. Debit or credit? Credit, kasi liability. So, since wala namang movement, ₱70,000, meron bang movement o wala? Tingnan natin muna pala ulit. Accounts payable. Ayun, nagbayad pala tayo ng 8,000 pesos. So, may debit tayo na accounts payable amounting to 8,000 pesos. Then, let's record payment. 8,000 pesos. Yun. So, magkano ending balance? We have 67,000 pesos. So, ending balance for accounts payable is 67,000 pesos. And then, ano pa? Wala na. So, tingin na tayo doon sa ating journal entries. Ano yung mga additional natin na transactions? Meron daw tayong rent expense, utilities expense, ano pa? Yun, dalawang expense lang. Gamitin natin yung format nito. Dito na ang natin lagay. Rent expense. Beginning balance is 0, and then we had a transaction, debit that to 8,000. So the ending balance would be 8,000 pesos. And then, another one, aside from rent expense, meron din daw tayo supplies expense. Ano ba tawag? Hindi pala supplies. Meron daw tayo dito naman. Utilities expense. Okay. Utilities expense. Beginning balance is 0, but we have a transaction for this month amounting to 3,000 pesos for utilities to be paid. 3,000 pesos. 3,000 pesos. Normal balance ng expense ay debit. Kaya, debit minus credit. Debit na 3,000 less credit na 0. We will have an ending balance of rent expense amounting to 3,000 pesos. So again, as a recap, di ba nag-post tayo from journal entries, we prepared journal entries, and then we posted it in the general ledger dapat. Pero for simplicity purposes, we use the account. Cash beginning balance is 150,000, and then we have a debit for cash received on services rendered, and then credit of 8,000 for payment of rent, credit of 3,000 for payment of utilities, and credit of accounts payable, credit of 8,000 for payment of accounts payable. Net debit is 169,000, net credit 19,000 pesos. So the ending balance for cash is 150,000 pesos. How about the accounts receivable? Wala tayong movement for the year or for the month. Ano lang meron tayo? Beginning balance 30,000 pesos. So the ending balance would be the same, 30,000 pesos. The same is true for computer equipment. There is no movement. We only have beginning balance of 80,000, no movement, kaya ending balance ay 80,000 pesos. For notes receivable, wala tayong beginning balance. Mali pala yung kanina. Ano lang meron tayo? Movement during the year, which is, or during the month, 25,000 increase or debit for the services rendered. So, ending balance would be 25,000 pesos. And supplies, sabi doon sa book, we have beginning balance of 10,000 pesos for the supplies. But, it says here, or in the book, that the ending balance is 8,000 pesos because this is the unused portion of the supplies. So, what we have to do is to credit 2,000 pesos to properly reflect the amount or the portion of the supplies which have been used. And of course, it's not enough to credit supplies. We must recognize also the expense, the corresponding expense. So debit, supplies, expense. Utilities expense, ba't zero ito? Utilities expense, 3,000 pesos. Okay. Now, how about accounts payable? Yung accounts payable, beginning balance niya ay utilities. Accounts payable naman, beginning balance, credit. Kasi liability, 75,000 pesos according to the book. And during the month, we have paid 8,000 pesos. So, debit. Kasi we have to decrease the accounts payable. So, we have to debit 8,000 pesos. And so, we have debit of 8,000 and credit of 75,000. So, the ending balance is 67,000 pesos. Okay. Gamitin natin itong format nito. Pesos. Ayan, and for rent expense, we don't have beginning balance. We only have movement during the year or during the month of 3,000 pesos for the rent. Bakit 3,000 ito? It should be 8,000 pesos. Ayan. Okay, and then utilities expense, ganun din, wala tayong beginning balance. We only have movement during the month, 3,000 pesos. So, may nalimutan ba tayo? Wala na. What are we going to do next is to prepare the trial balance. O, sige, gawa na tayong trial balance. Ano bang meron tayo? Gawa na lang tayo ng heading. Trial balance. Ano bang pangalan nito? Urban Computer Repair Shop. From the year and then sige, dito na lang. Ano bang meron tayo? We have cash. And then next, we have repair supplies. What else? We have accounts receivable. Then notes receivable. Ano pang assets natin? Computer equipment. Repair supplies. Palitan ko lang ito. Salit. Okay, so let's go back. We have cash. Lipat natin pala si repair supplies. Yeah. So cash muna, and then accounts receivable, loans receivable, repair supplies, o computer equipment. Bakit ganito yung arrangement, ma'am? Kasi, pag nagagawa tayong financial statements or trial balance, inuuna natin yung mga liquid accounts. When you say liquid, it is the probability of being used in payment for currently due obligations. So cash, madali ba siyang, when you say liquidity, it is the convertibility into cash in order to be used for payment of currently due obligations. So, cash number 1, kasi yan ang most liquid account. Kasi, anytime, pwede mo na magamit yan for payment of your obligations. Next is accounts receivable. Mas liquid ito sa mga iba kasi accounts receivable, you have the expectation of receiving cash for this. The same is true with notes receivable. Pero sa notes, nahuhuli siya kasi sa accounts receivable kasi minsan may terms ito. Minsan hindi siya for 1 year, minsan more than 1 year, or less than 1 year, pero mga 8 months, 10 months, gano'n. So, mas mahaba yung panahon niya kumpara sa accounts receivable. Anytime pwede mong i-collect. Next is repair supplies. Kasi, mas mahirap siya i-convert into cash because you have to sell this first before recovering a cash for it. And more so with computer equipment because computer equipments and other property, plant, and equipments are considered as fixed assets. Yan yung mga long-term assets mo. Matagal siya ma-convert into cash because you have to sell it. And then, mostly, this is, when you say fixed, this is installed in the premises of the corporation for use in the daily operations. Kaya sabing fixed assets, kasi usually, nilalagay mo, ini-install mo yung computer equipment or mga machineries or yung mga buildings, yan. Sa office premises mo yan with the intention of being placed there for a long period of time. Because either it is being used daily in the operations or meron siyang use which would extend for more than 1 year. Kaya ganito ang arrangement natin. So, wala na ba tayong ibang assets? Wala na, no? Cash, accounts receivable, notes receivable, repair supplies, computer equipment. So, next in line would be the liabilities. And we don't have any other liability except for accounts payable. Next. We have wala na. So, capital beginning. Magkano kaya ang capital beginning natin? Hindi naman sinabi, di ba? Pero, makukompute ba natin? Yes. Kasi, beginning assets less beginning liabilities would be beginning capital. Magkano yung beginning assets natin? 150 plus 30, 180, plus repair supplies, 190, plus computer equipment na 80, magiging 270,000. Tama ba? 150, 180, plus 10, 190, plus 80, that is 270,000 pesos. Less accounts payable na 75,000, we will get 195,000 pesos. So, yun yung beginning balance ng capital natin. Agree ba kayo? Pero mamaya na natin i-plot. The next, service revenue. Rent expense. Repairs, supplies, expense. Ito pala ay for the month ended February. Repair supplies expense. Next, rent expense. Then, utilities expense. Then, what else? Wala na. Wala na. Okay. So, cash, magkano nga yung ending balance ng cash natin? Ayan. Cash, 150,000. Accounts receivable, 30,000 pesos. Notes receivable, 25,000 pesos. Repair supplies, 8,000 pesos. Computer equipment, 80,000 pesos. Accounts payable, repair equipment, accounts payable, credit, yan natin dito, debit side, dito naman credit. Accounts payable, credit side. Kasi yan yung normal balance, 67,000 pesos. And how much is the capital beginning again? 195,000 pesos. How much is the service revenue? Credit, because normal balance is credit. So, wala tayo palang T-account for service revenue. Katahin na lang natin ito. Okay, beginning balance is 0. Lagi nagsi-zero out yan. So, ending balance is magkano service revenue? Meron daw tayong 19,000. Meron din tayong credit na 25,000 pesos. So, we have net credit, 44,000 pesos. So, we have ending balance of 44,000 pesos. And repair supplies expense, debit, magkano? 2,000 pesos. Then rent expense, 8,000 pesos. And utilities expense, 3,000 pesos. Tingnan natin kung equal sila. Total. Total debits, compute nyo. Yun. So, nag-equal naman yung trial balance natin. Total debits is 306,000 pesos and total credit is 306,000 pesos. So, the question in your book is, how much is the new assets? How much is the new liabilities? So, ang gusto nilang sabihin, what is the ending balance of the assets? What is the ending balance of the liabilities? What is the capital balance at the end of 1 month? And what is the income for 1 month? Okay. Di ba meron na tayong trial balance? Gawin natin ngayon yung balance sheet. Okay. Sige, sagutin muna natin yung tanong para tapos na. Magkano yung new assets? Yung assets natin, cash, AR, notes receivable, repair supplies, computer equipment. Magkano total nitong apat na to? Bigyan natin ng kulay. Gusto ko yung assets ay kulay yellow. 293,000 pesos ang assets. Magkano naman daw ang liabilities? Liabilities natin ay 67,000. Gawin natin blue. And capital end. Ayan, wala tayong capital end. Hindi, unahin natin si changes in owner's equity. Paano ulit mag-compute ng capital N? Paulit-ulit natin ginagawa. Gawa na lang tayo ng statement to changes in order. Capital beginning. Magkano capital beginning natin? 195,000 pesos. And then, add additional investment. Add net income. Net income na lang lagay natin para madali. And then less drawings. Capital. Magkano additional investment natin kanina? Meron daw tayo. Wala ba sinabi? Wala. Wala naman tayong additional investment. 0. Net income, wala. Pero may drawings tayo. Magkano yung drawings natin? Drawings ba tayo? Wala din pala tayong drawings. Wala. Di, 0 din. Net income na kailangan natin malaman. Gawa tayo ng income statement. Statement of comprehensive income. Sa madaling sabi, kahit hindi ka na gumawa ng ganyan, magkano income mo? Revenue of 44,000 less 13,000 is how much net income? 44,000 less 2,000, 8,000, and 3,000, magkano? 44 less sum nitong tatlo 31,000 pesos. Again, magkano net income? Service revenue of 44,000 pesos less the expenses of 2,000 repair supplies expense, rent expense of 8,000 pesos, and utilities expense na 3,000 pesos. So you have net income of 31,000 pesos unless drawings wala. So magkano ang ending balance mo? Ending balance mo ay and then less drawings. 226,000 pesos. Ito yung ending balance ng capital. 226,000 pesos. Gawa na lang din tayo ng income statement. Service revenue. Magkano service revenue? 44,000 pesos. Ayan. Expenses. Magkano expense? You have repairs, supplies, expense, rent expense, utilities expense, repair supplies, rent expense, utilities expense. So, magkano net income? Of course, this is before income tax. Service revenue is 31,000 pesos. Ito din nga. Net income na 31,000 pesos. And then lastly, what is our, let's prepare statement of financial position. Purong lang natin silang lahat. Ito lang po muna kayo. Ayun. Ayan natin si balance sheet. Bakit February 31? Yan. So, cash, then accounts receivable, tsaka na natin gawin yung current and non-current assets. Simple lang na balance. And then, liabilities and owner's equity. Liabilities. Okay, so assets muna. What is the assets? Cash, accounts receivable, notes receivable, paper supplies, computer equipment. So this will be your total assets. Total assets. Okay. Cash, then accounts receivable, notes receivable, paper supplies, computer equipment. So magkano ang total assets? 293,000 pesos. How about our liabilities and owner's equity? Accounts payable is 67,000 pesos. And how much is our capital end? 226,000 pesos. Tignan nga natin kung pareho pa rin yung, kung mag-i-equal si assets siya si liability. $293,000 pesos pa rin. So, same. Assets is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. So, this is the whole process for P4-4. Pero syempre, ito kaya tayo kasi pinakita natin yung buong process. Pag nag-quiz kayo, hindi nyo naman kailangan gawin yan. Ano lang kailangan nyo i-satisfy doon sa tanong? Pwede, Ang madaling paraan para sagutin ito, how much is the new assets, new liabilities, capital balance, net income. Di, gawa kayo T-account, di journal entry muna. O di kaya T-account lang, kasi hindi man required yung journal entry dito. Diretso ka na sa T-account, i-plot mo lang yung beginning balance. For example, cash, 150,000 pesos. Tapos, isa-isahin mo yung transactions kung may effect ba siya sa cash. One-month operation, shop receive cash, debit, 19,000, lagay mo na sa left side, 19. In the transaction, meron ka daw promissory note, hindi makaka-apekto sa cash. Next transaction, nagbayad ka daw 8,000. So, right side of the equation, right side of the T-account, 8,000. Then utilities, nagbayad din, right side, 3,000. Credit, 3,000. And then credit, accounts payable, credit cash amounting to 8,000 pesos kasi nagbayad daw ng accounts payable. And then yung unused supplies, wala namang pakialam yan sa cash. Kaya makukuha mo na ending balance ng cash. O ganun din gawin mo sa lahat na accounts. And then, i-identify mo na kung ano yung mga assets. You don't have to prepare this. As long as you know what are the asset accounts, you can get the answer to these questions, or the liabilities, the capital accounts. You can get the answer to these questions quickly. Yung ginawa kasi natin, we just tried to prepare journal entries plus the accounts, and then the trial balance, and the financial statements. So, ngayon, makikita nyo naman, di ba, nasagot naman natin lahat. Pero kung may diskarte kayo mabilis, mabuti naman yun. T-account lang, pinakamabilis na diskarte. Ayun. Next, P4-5. Sige. After dito, P4-5, i-send ko sa inyo yung sagot kasi magla-lunch break na pala. Sagutin na lang natin to last na. And then, I will just send you the Excel file para ma-check nyo kung tama yung mga sagot nyo. Hanggang P4-10 lang. Kasi may assignment pa kayo, diba? P4-11. Okay. P4-5. Explain the correct answer. Smart Company has assets 124,000, liabilities of 58,000 at the beginning of the year. During the year, assets decreased to 106,000 and total liabilities increased by 23,000 pesos. Total revenues was 30,000 pesos. There were no additional investment nor withdrawal during the year. What is the amount of expenses for the period? And the total assets increased by 80,000 pesos and liabilities decreased by 24,000 during the period. What is the amount of that increase or decrease in capital? O, madali lang to. Nagawa na natin to, di ba, sa quiz? So, may ganito kayo sa quiz. P4-5. Anong gagawin natin dito? Magandang diskarte dito is yung accounting equation. Asset is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. Hindi na natin isahin yung accounts. Okay, magkano na yung assets? Beginning. Sige, talaga. Beginning balance. Assets beginning is 124,000. And the beginning liabilities is 58,000 pesos. And then owner's equity, magkano? The assets less liabilities, 66,000 pesos. So during the year, Assets decreased to 106,000. Okay. So when we say, so mali. Ano sabi? Ending balance. Ayan. So sabi, assets decreased to 106,000. Pag sinabing decreased to, bumaba siya, kaya ang nangyari, naging 106,000 na siya. So pag nabasa mo yung word, yung decreased to, yan yung end, yan yung result, yan yung end. Kaya hindi yan movement during the year, yan yung ending balance ni 106,000. Nangyari daw, naging 106,000 lang daw si asset. Ano naman daw nangyari sa liabilities? Nangyari daw sa liabilities ay increased by. Pag sinabi mo increased by, yan yung itinaas. Nakita yung difference dun sa words? Assets decreased to 106,000 pesos. Ibig sabihin, ito na yung naging kalalabasan. Ito yung naging ending balance. Bumaba siya para maging 106,000. Pero yung total increased by, ibig sabihin, ito yung amount na tinaas. So, yan yung movement. So, during the year, magkano increase? That is 23,000 pesos. Diba? Tama? The ending balance ay increase ba ito or decrease? Increase by 23. So, ending is 81,000 pesos. So, magkano movement during the year ng assets? Makikita mo na nag-movement ng during the year ng assets ay 18,000 pesos. Ano pang sabi doon sa isa? Ano sabi? Total revenues was 38,000 pesos. There were no additional investment, no withdrawal during the year. So, ibig sabihin, ano lang movement sa owner's equity? Pag nagkaroon ng total revenues, increase ba yan or decrease sa owner's equity? That is an increase. Wala additional investment, wala din withdrawal. So, meron tayong increase ng 38,000. Increase by 38,000 pesos. So, magkano yung ending? 104,000 pesos. So, ano ba tanong? What is the amount of expenses for the period? Teka lang. Sorry. So, kung ang expectation natin for assets, for owner's equity is 25,000 pesos na ending, yun pala. So, erase ulit. Ayan. Ulit. Ito, revenues pa lang. Yan, ang mamaya natin ilagay. So, again, di ba? Beginning balance sa assets and liabilities, 124,000 and liabilities is 58,000 pesos. So, ang beginning balance ng owner's equity ay 66,000 pesos. Now, during the year, nag-decrease daw si assets to 106,000. So, ito yung endings. Si liabilities naman, nag-increase by 23,000. So, ang ending balance si liabilities ay 81,000 pesos. Now, what will be the ending balance of owner's equity? The ending balance of owner's equity is 106,000 pesos less 81,000, you have 25,000 pesos. So, kung 25,000 pesos ang ending balance si owner's equity and ang beginning balance si owner's equity ay 66,000 pesos, magkano yung movement niya during the year? There must be an increase, di ba? At least pala, there must be a decrease of how much? Work back tayo. Magkano ang increase or decrease? 41,000 pesos. Kuha. Kasi from beginning balance sa 66,000 pesos, naging 25,000 pesos na lang siya sa huli. So, may net decrease na 41,000 pesos. Okay? So, yung decrease na yan, ano lang meron? Meron lang na tayo revenues. Yun lang yung given. So, kung revenues ay capital balance, kung ang net decrease ay 41,000, mag-work back tayo. Net increase or decrease of negative decrease in capital is 41,000 pesos. Magkano kaya ang expense? O, di ba yung net increase or decrease, yun yung nasa gitna nung capital beginning, plus investment, plus income, less expense, less withdrawal is equal to capital end. Yung nasa gitna na yun, yung up na yun, yung investment, additional investment, and income, or revenues, and gain, o sige, income na lang, tanggalin natin yung revenues, nakalit, less, huwag na natin lagyan ng less, bale, lagyan na lang natin expenses, and then, withdrawals, we call for our net increase or decrease. Wala daw tayong additional investment. Wala din daw tayong withdrawals. Ano lang ang meron tayo? Income na magkano? 38,000 pesos. So, pag nag-workbook method tayo, di ba, additional investment plus income, less expense, less withdrawal is equal to net increase or decrease ni capital. Okay? So, mag-workbook method tayo. Net decrease of 41,000 pesos less income of 38,000 pesos. We have an expense of 79,000 pesos. Ito daw yung expense. So, ito yung sagot dun sa tanong. What is the expense? Ito yung movement. Net decrease of 41,000 pesos, but it is brought by income and expense. So, since we have income of 38,000 pesos, then we have total expense of 79 pesos to bring a total decrease of 41,000 pesos. And then next, if the total assets increased by 80,000 pesos and total liabilities increased by 24,000 during the period, what is the amount of increase or decrease in capital? So, separate, ito no, separate question. Ano ba? Paano natin ito papakita? Yan. So, gamitin na lang natin ito ulit. Magkano daw during the year? Ang assets daw ay nagkaroon ng net increase ng 80,000. Increase by 80,000. So, kita niyo yung wording. So, pag sinabing increase by, yun yung mismo amount of increase or decrease during that period. And then, how about liabilities? We have increase also of 24,000 pesos. Increase by 24,000 pesos. 24,000 pesos. The ending balance natin ay magkano ang ending balance ng assets? 124 plus 80, 204,000. Magkano naman ang liabilities na end? 58 plus 24,000 is 82,000 pesos. So the question is, how much is the amount of increase or decrease in capital? Magkano ba yung beginning balance ni capital? 66,000. Magkano yung ending balance ni capital? 204 plus 82. Work back pa. Ending balance less beginning balance. This is the net increase or decrease. Or, kung ayaw mo nyan, edi inet mo na lang to dito sa during the year. You can also get the same amount. Net increase in assets of 80,000 pesos. less net increase of 24,000 in liabilities, you'll still get the same amount. So, ganun lang din. Kasi, net increase in assets is equal to net increase in liabilities plus owner's equity. Lagi yun. Lagi siyang equal. Beginning balance, movement during the year, equal pa rin sila sa equation. And ending balance, same pa rin yung equation. So there are two ways. Either you get the ending balance and the beginning balance of owner's equity, and so you will get the movement during the year. Or just use the accounting equation of assets is equal to liabilities plus owner's equity. Gagawin mo lang, assets movement less liabilities, you'll get the movement for owner's equity. So that is your P4-5. Send ko na lang yung buong file kasi nandito naman yung solution for P4-6, 4-6, 4-6 to 4-8, then 4-9. Ayan. Kaya na lang bahalang mag-aral. The next meeting is Saturday. We will start with chapter 5. Send ko na lang din yung sagot sa P4-10 to P4-19 after the meeting on Saturday. Kasi ang deadline nyo for your assignment is on Saturday. But we will start with chapter 5 on Saturday. So do you have questions so that you can take your lunch already and let's dismiss? Do you have questions? Sana nandyan pa kayo, di ba? Kasi kung ako na lang yung nandito, tapos wala na kayo, paano na? Do you have questions? If you don't have questions, then let's check the attendance before we dismiss. None po. Okay. Pag may question kayo, sabihin nyo lang. Pag di nyo naintindihan. Mamask lang po kasi may entries sa book na for January. Should we take it as typos po to be the same month or should we acknowledge it as January po? Saan? Yan yata yung in-email or tinext mo sa akin, no? Tama ba? Anong problem nga yun? Ma'am, po, may entries po sa book na January. So, iba po. Ano iba? Anong problem?
Hello, hello po, ma'am. Ano po? Hanapin ko po yung problem.
P4-10 July. P4-10. Ito. Second half, ayun, P4-10, yung number 30, yung July 30. Paid salaries for the second half. Of January. Okay. E di, gawin nyo na lang July. Basta masusundan mo naman yung problem eh. I-discuss na lang natin pag may corrections. Okay. P12, meron din po. Yung 12 din po, ma'am. P4-12. Ano na yan? Oo nga, no? O, gawin nyo na lang first half of September. Then, second half of, for the month of, received unpaid utility bill for the month of January. For September ito. Sige, ano pa? $17, may correction po ba yung book or magbabalance talaga yun? Ano number 17? Ito, hindi talaga yan balance. Hindi talaga siya balance. So, may error talaga na kailangan i-correct based on the errors, kaya may errors were discovered. That's why it is not balanced. So you adjust the trial balance based on the errors which were discovered and apply necessary corrections. Di kasi mabalance mo. Mababalance mo yan, huwag kang mag-alala. Discuss natin sa next meeting. Try mo ulit. Mababalance natin yan. Okay? Sige, baka pagod ka na kaya di mo nababalance. Mag-rest ka muna. Tapos sagutan mo ulit. Okay ba? Let's check the attendance so that we could dismiss. Eliza, dyan ka pa ba?
Po.
Present? Anna?
Present po.
Shini?
Present po, ma'am. Present.
Josh?
Present po.
Sita?
Present po, ma'am.
Reg?
Present po, ma'am.
Brian?
Present, ma'am.
Tessa?
Present, ma'am.
Marcus? Shannon?
Present po, ma'am.
Catherine?
Present po, ma'am.
Gerald?
Present po, ma'am.
Alexa?
Present po.
Janelle?
Present po, ma'am.
John?
Present po.
Yusha?
Present po.
Euclid? Euclid is absent. Euclid? Siron?
Present po.
Diane?
Present po, ma'am.
Linel?
Present po.
Ayen?
Present po.
Joseph?
Present po.
Daryl? Andiyan ka na ba, Daryl? Andiyan ka pa ba? Wala na ulit si Daryl. Francis?
Present po.
Frances?
Present po.
Kurt?
Present po.
Kirsty?
Present po.
Elena?
Present po.
James?
Present po.
Sean? Lexi? Sean is not here.
Present po.
Lexi?
Present po.
Shaira?
Present po.
Okay. Rhea?
Present po.
Okay, Kurt. No worries. Francine?
Present po.
Sander?
Present po.
Aman?
Present po.
Carlo? Carlo? Jillian?
Present po.
Present, ma'am.
Carlo ba yun?
Yes, ma'am.
Carlo,
Present
andyan
po.
ka? Laika?
Yes, ma'am. Mahina lang po
Present
yung
po.
connection.
Sige, okay lang. Laika, Mark, Andre.
Present po.
Mark, Andre. Emil.
Present po.
Present po.
Okay. Wala dito si Sean. Sean, are you here? Daryl. Euclid. Okay, so that's it. Now that's the discussion is recorded, so I will just post this in our module, and then we'll discuss chapter 5 on our next meeting, which is on Saturday. Then I will just post all the answers to the questions or problem on Saturday evening. Pero yung ngayon, yung P-1 to P-10, ipopost ko na sa Saturday night. Yung P4-11 at P4-6. Okay. Oo, sige. I-present na lang kita, Darin. Hindi kita naririnig eh. Sige, present ka na. Dahil andyan ka naman. Ma'am, present po. Nag-log ata ako kanina. Sige. Si Sean lang ang wala. Sino yun? Present ka naman talaga, Sean ah. Jean ba to? Bakit Sean ang nakalagay dito? Jean Carlo. Oo, present ka, Carlo. Okay, thank you. Let's have a great day. Eat your lunch and then just email me if you have questions. If you don't understand the lesson because I'm very confusing, just inform me so that I can have adjustment in my teaching strategies. Okay ba yun? Sige. Salamat.